The great hall of the Galactic Council had not seen such fear in 3,000 cycles. Representatives from 7-star empires sat in their floating chairs, their bodies trembling, their eyes fixed on the holographic display at the center of the chamber. The display showed a small blue planet, spinning quietly in the darkness of space. Earth. High Counselor Bryn stood at the speaking platform. She was tall and thin, with silver skin that glowed softly in the dim light. Her people, the Alteri, were known for their peaceful ways and gentle hearts. But today, her voice carried desperation. "The Voran Empire has destroyed 3 of our colony worlds," she said. 12 billion of my people are dead. Their fleet grows stronger every day. We cannot win this war alone. The chamber erupted in whispers and gasps. Everyone knew what she was about to suggest. Everyone prayed she would not say it. "We must contact Earth," Bryn said. "We must ask the humans for help." Ambassador Tolik of the Mezen Collective rose from his chair so fast that he nearly fell. His 4 eyes were wide with horror, and his green scales had turned pale. "Have you lost your mind?" he shouted. "You would doom us all." "The Voran are already dooming us," Bryn replied calmly. "The humans are our only hope." Tolik shook his head violently. "You were not there 50 cycles ago. You did not see what they did. I was on the rescue ship that found what remained of the Voran scouting vessel." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the story, but hearing it from a witness was different. "The Voran took 12 humans from their planet," Talik continued, his voice shaking. 12 primitive creatures with no technology, no weapons, no knowledge of space travel. The Voran ship had a crew of 200 trained soldiers. 200. He paused to catch his breath. "When we found the ship, it was drifting near the edge of their solar system. Only one Voran was still alive. He was hiding in a storage compartment, half mad with terror. Do you know what he told us? Nobody spoke. He said the humans broke free from their cells within hours. They killed the guards with their bare hands. They took their weapons and learned to use them in minutes. Then they hunted the crew through the ship like animals hunting prey. They did not stop to rest. They did not stop to eat. They just kept coming and coming and coming." Tolik's voice dropped to a whisper. "The humans figured out how to fly the ship in 6 days. 6 days. Technology that took our ancestors 1,000 years to develop. They were heading toward the Voran homeworld when we intercepted them. If we had been 1 day later, they would have reached it." He looked around the chamber with wild eyes. "We killed those humans to protect ourselves. We erased all records of the incident. We placed Earth under permanent quarantine. And now you want to wake them up. You want to tell them they are not alone. You want to invite them into our wars." Bryn did not back down. "I want to survive," she said simply. "The Voran will not stop until they control everything. They have planet-killing weapons now. If we do not find a way to stop them, there will be no galaxy left to protect." The debate continued for hours. Some supported Bryn. Most were too afraid. In the end, no decision was made. The council agreed only to wait and watch. But Bryn had already made her choice, far across the galaxy, on the quarantined planet called Earth. Captain Park Doan sat in the command center of the Korean Space Force monitoring station. He was a quiet man with sharp eyes and steady hands. He had spent 15 years watching the stars, looking for something he was not sure existed. Tonight, he found it. "Sir, we have an anomaly near Saturn's rings," said the young officer beside him. It appeared 3 hours ago and has not moved since. Doan leaned forward and studied the screen. The object was small, barely visible against the background of space, but it was clearly artificial. No natural object held that shape or reflected light in that pattern. "Have you reported this to anyone?" Doan asked. "No, sir. I wanted to confirm it first." "Good. Keep it that way." Doan picked up his secure phone and dialed a number that very few people knew existed. It rang twice before a woman's voice answered. "General Kim Yuna speaking." "General? This is Captain Park Doan at Saturn Watch. We have a contact." There was a long pause on the other end. "Are you certain?" "Yes, ma'am. It's artificial. It's watching us." Another pause. When Yuna spoke again, her voice was calm but hard as steel. "Maintain observation. Tell no one. I will handle the rest." The line went dead. General Kim Yuna set down her phone and stared out the window of her office. She was a small woman with grey hair and a face lined by decades of service. She had fought in 3 wars and buried too many soldiers to count. She had hoped to retire in peace. That hope died tonight. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out a folder, marked with red letters, Planetary Defense Initiative. Inside were plans that most world leaders thought were science fiction. Secret programs, hidden weapons, training protocols for a war that nobody believed would ever come. Yuna had always believed. She had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, fighting for funding, building alliances in secret, recruiting the best soldiers and scientists from every nation. People called her paranoid. People called her crazy. She smiled grimly. Somewhere out there, something was watching Earth. Soon, that something would learn that Earth had been watching back. And when the time came, humanity would be ready. General Kim Yuna picked up her phone and began making calls. The long night had just begun. The war between the Voran Empire and the Eltari Federation grew worse with each passing day. Warlord Kassin, the supreme ruler of the Voran, showed no mercy. His massive warships moved from system to system, burning everything in their path. Cities that had stood for thousands of years turned to ash in seconds. Billions of innocent lives ended in flashes of fire. The other empires of the galaxy watched in horror but did nothing. They were too afraid. The Voran military was the strongest force anyone had ever seen. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their soldiers more brutal. To fight them was to die. High Counselor Bryn watched her people suffer and knew she had no choice left. The Council had refused to help. The other empires had abandoned her. There was only one option remaining, and it terrified her more than the Voran ever could. Late one night, alone in her private chamber, she recorded a message and sent it toward the Forbidden Planet. The message was simple. It explained who she was. It warned of the coming danger. It begged for help. Then she waited. On the bridge of his flagship, Warlord Kassin received a report that changed everything. His intelligence officers had intercepted the transmission from High Counselor Bryn. They decoded it easily and brought it to their master. Kassin was a massive creature, standing 3 meters tall, with thick grey skin and 4 powerful arms. His face was covered in scars from countless battles. His eyes burned with cruel intelligence. He read the message and laughed. "The fool has doomed herself," he said. "She thinks those primitive animals can save her." His generals laughed with him, but Kassin raised one hand for silence. "Still, we cannot take risks. The quarantine exists for a reason. Those creatures are dangerous in ways we do not fully understand. We must destroy them before they learn about us." He turned to Admiral Voron, his most trusted commander. "Take 40 warships to the Sol system. Burn their planet to nothing. Leave no survivors. I want every human dead within 1 cycle." Admiral Voron bowed low. "It will be done, my lord." As the Voron fleet prepared for its mission, Earth received its first message from the stars. Dr. Lee Su was working late in a basement laboratory when her computer detected something unusual. She was a linguist, an expert in codes and patterns and the hidden structures of language. For 5 years, she had worked for a secret government program, analyzing radio signals from space, searching for signs of intelligent life. Most people thought she was wasting her time. Tonight, she proved them all wrong. The signal came from somewhere beyond Saturn. It was clearly artificial, clearly intentional, and clearly not from Earth. Her hands trembled as she began the long process of decoding it. It took her 72 hours without sleep. She drank coffee until her heart raced. She filled notebook after notebook with calculations and guesses and theories. And finally, word by word, the message revealed itself. When she finished, she sat in silence for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and called General Kim Yuna. 6 hours later, the leaders of every major nation on Earth gathered in a secret underground bunker. Presidents and prime ministers, generals and admirals, scientists and spies sat together in one room, united by fear and wonder. Dr. Lee Su stood before them and told them the truth. Humanity was not alone. There were empires among the stars, ancient and powerful beyond imagination. And one of those empires was coming to destroy them. The room erupted in chaos. Some leaders demanded proof. Others called for immediate surrender. A few suggested that it might be a trick or a test. But General Kim Yuna sat quietly, waiting for the noise to die down. When it finally did, she stood and faced the room. "We have 1 week," she said. "Maybe less. An enemy fleet is on its way to kill every man, woman, and child on this planet. We can argue about politics later. Right now, we need to decide. Do we fight or do we die?" The silence that followed was heavy and long. Finally, the President of the United States spoke. "What do you need, General?" Yuna pulled up a holographic display showing the plans she had prepared over 30 years. Ships hidden in underground hangars. Weapons stored in secret bunkers. Soldiers trained in programs that officially did not exist. "I need everything," she said. "Every nation, every resource, every soldier who is willing to fight. Give me that, and I will give you a chance." One by one, the leaders nodded. For the first time in human history, the entire world united behind a single goal: survival, on a military base in South Korea. Captain Park Do-won received new orders. He was being transferred from his monitoring station to something called Project Thunder. He had never heard of it, but when he arrived at the secret facility hidden beneath a mountain, he understood why. Rows of ships filled the massive underground hangar. They were not like anything he had ever seen. Some were small and fast, built for speed. Others were heavy and armored, covered in weapons. All of them were designed for one purpose: war in space. General Kim Yuna met him personally. "Captain Park, you are now the commander of Strike Force 7, she said. "These ships are crewed by alien standards. They have no shields, no faster-than-light engines, no advanced weapons. But they have something the enemy does not expect. What is that, General? Yuna smiled coldly. They have humans inside them, and humans do not know how to give up. She handed him a datapad containing everything they knew about the Voron, their ships, their tactics, their weaknesses. Study this, she said. Learn everything. When the enemy arrives, you will be the first to meet them. You will show them what happens when you threaten our home. Doan looked at the ships, then at the datapad, then at the general. How much time do we have? 6 days. Maybe 5. He nodded slowly. That will be enough. Across the facility, thousands of soldiers prepared for battle. They checked weapons, ran simulations, and said goodbye to loved ones they might never see again. Fear was everywhere, but so was determination. The enemy was coming. Earth was waiting. Admiral Voron's fleet entered the Sol system with complete confidence. 40 warships, each one capable of destroying a city in seconds. 200,000 Voron soldiers, trained since birth for conquest and war. Against them stood a primitive species that had never left their own planet. This would not be a battle. This would be an execution. Voron sat in his command chair on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Fist. He was old for a Voron, with dark scales turning grey around his eyes. He had conquered 12 worlds in his long career. This would be his easiest victory. Report, he commanded. We are approaching the 4th planet, Admiral. The blue world is still several hours away. No enemy contacts detected. Voron nodded with satisfaction. The humans probably did not even know they were coming. By the time they realized the danger, it would be too late. Then the problems began. Admiral, we have lost contact with our forward scouts. Voron frowned. What do you mean, lost contact? 3 scout ships entered the asteroid belt for reconnaissance. They stopped transmitting 10 minutes ago. No distress signals. No debris on sensors. A cold feeling crept up Voron's spine. Ships did not simply vanish. Send 2 destroyers to investigate. Continue to ward the target. The destroyers entered the asteroid belt. 30 seconds later, they also vanished. Now Voron was truly worried. He ordered the fleet to slow down and increase sensor power to maximum. But the sensors showed nothing except rocks and dust. Whatever was killing his ships was invisible. Admiral, new contacts appearing near the 4th planet. The main screen flickered and changed. Voron leaned forward, expecting to see enemy warships. Instead, he saw something that made no sense. Thousands of tiny objects were rising from the red planet and the asteroid belt. They were small, barely larger than escape pods. Their hulls were crude metal, covered in what looked like chemical rockets and simple nuclear reactors. They had no shields, no energy weapons, no faster-than-light capability. They looked like toys compared to his mighty fleet. What are those things? Voron asked. Unknown, Admiral. They appear to be some kind of primitive attack craft. They pose no threat to our armor. Voron relaxed slightly. Destroy them. All batteries, open fire. The Voron fleet unleashed a storm of plasma fire. Bright beams of energy cut through space, vaporizing dozens of the small craft in seconds. The attack seemed to be working, but the human ships did not retreat. They did not try to dodge. They accelerated directly toward the plasma fire, moving faster and faster, closing the distance between them and the Voron fleet. Admiral, they are not stopping. Keep firing. Destroy them all. More human ships exploded, but for every one that died, 10 more kept coming. They were too small and too fast to hit ice, and they were getting closer. Voron felt real fear for the first time in his life. This was not how enemies behaved. Enemies retreated when outmatched. Enemies surrendered when defeat was certain. These humans flew straight into death as if they welcomed it. The first wave of human ships reached the Voron fleet. Instead of trying to fight with weapons, they did something impossible. They attached themselves directly to the hulls of the Voron warships, clamping on like parasites. What are they doing? Voron screamed. The answer came seconds later. Cutting torches burned through the Voron armor. Airlocks were blown open. And then, from inside those tiny ships, humans began pouring into the Voron vessels. Lieutenant Choi Ha-jun was the first through the breach on the flagship. He was a young man with a calm face and steady hands. He had trained for this moment his entire adult life, preparing for a war that everyone said would never come. Now that war was here, and he was ready, his assault team followed him through the smoking hole in the hull. They wore heavy armor and carried automatic weapons modified for ship combat. They moved in perfect formation, covering every angle, advancing through the alien corridors like a single deadly machine. The Voron crew was completely unprepared. They were trained for space battles, for shooting at distant ships, for pushing buttons and watching screens. They had never faced an enemy inside their own walls. Ha-jun and his team cut through them like a knife through paper. Every corner they turned, every room they entered, more Voron fell. The aliens were bigger and stronger, but humans were faster and more brutal. They did not hesitate. They did not show mercy. They just kept moving forward, room by room, deck by deck. On the bridge, Admiral Voron received reports of chaos throughout his fleet. 20 ships had been boarded. 15 more had lost communication entirely. His own flagship was being invaded, and his security teams could not stop the attackers. They are animals, he shouted. They are fighting inside our ships like animals. He drew his personal weapon and prepared to defend himself. But before he could fire a single shot, the bridge doors exploded inward. Lieutenant Choi Ha-jun walked through the smoke. His armor was covered in alien blood. His weapon was pointed directly at Voron's head. "Surrender," Ha-jun said. His voice was calm, almost polite. Voron looked at the young human, at the dead bodies of his bridge crew, at the chaos consuming his entire fleet. He had conquered 12 worlds. He had never lost a battle. And now he was being defeated by creatures who had never even left their own planet. He dropped his weapon. "I surrender," he whispered. Within 4 hours, the battle was over. 23 Voron ships had been captured intact. 12 more were destroyed. The remaining 5 fled toward the outer planets, sending panicked messages back to the Empire. Captain Park Do-won stood on the bridge of the captured flagship, looking out at the stars. Behind him, human engineers were already studying the alien technology, learning its secrets, making it their own. General Kim Yuna's voice came through his communicator. "Captain Park, report. Victory, General. The enemy fleet is ours." There was a long pause before Yuna replied. When she did, her voice carried something that sounded almost like pride. "Well done, Captain. Now the real work begins. Bring those ships home. We have a war to win." Earth had won its first battle, but the war was just beginning. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The humans had won. Not just survived, not just escaped, but actually defeated a Voran battle fleet. 40 warships sent to destroy a primitive planet. 23 captured. 12 destroyed. 5 survivors running home in terror. In the halls of the Galactic Council, representatives gathered in stunned silence. The holographic display showed footage recovered from the fleeing Voran ships. Tiny human vessels swarming through space. Armored figures cutting through ship hulls. Voran soldiers screaming as they were hunted through their own corridors. Ambassador Tolik watched with 4 eyes wide in horror. "This is what we feared," he whispered. "This is what we tried to prevent." High Counselor Bryn stood apart from the others, her silver face showing no emotion. She had gambled everything on this moment. She had broken the most sacred law of the Council, and somehow, against all reason, her gamble had paid off. Her communication device buzzed. A message from Earth, encrypted and addressed directly to her. She stepped into a private chamber and opened the transmission. A human face appeared on her screen. It was a woman with grey hair and cold eyes. She wore a military uniform covered in symbols that Bryn did not recognize. "High Counselor Bryn, I am General Kim Yuna of Earth. I received your warning. I wanted to thank you personally." Bryn inclined her head. "I am glad it reached you in time. I hoped you might be able to defend yourselves, but I never imagined this outcome." "Neither did we," Yuna admitted. "But we adapted. We always do." She paused, studying Bryn through the screen. "You took a great risk contacting us. Your council could punish you severely. Some things are more important than rules. My people are dying, General. The Voran are burning our worlds. I did what I had to do." Yuna nodded slowly. Something like respect flickered in her eyes. "Then, let me ask you a question, High Counselor. Where can we find the rest of them?" Bryn felt a chill run through her body. "The rest of the Voran? Yes, their homeworld, their military bases, their leadership." Yuna leaned forward, her voice dropping to something cold and hard. "They came to destroy my people. Every man, woman, and child on my planet would be dead if they had succeeded. That cannot go unanswered." For a long moment, Bryn could not speak. She had hoped the humans would help defend against the Voran. She had not expected them to go hunting. "General, I understand your anger, but the Voran Empire controls hundreds of star systems. Their full military numbers over 50,000 warships. You cannot possibly think to attack them directly." Yuna smiled, and the expression held no warmth at all. "Watch us." The transmission ended. On the Voran homeworld, Warlord Kassan received the news of his fleet's destruction in terrible silence. His generals stood before him, trembling, waiting for his rage to explode. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet and deadly. 40 ships, 200,000 soldiers, defeated by animals who cannot even leave their own planet. He rose from his throne and walked slowly toward his generals. "Someone explain to me how this is possible." No one dared to answer. Kassan grabbed the nearest general and lifted him off the ground with one massive hand. The council was right to fear them. They were right to hide them away. And now, because of our arrogance, those creatures know about us. They know we exist. They know where we are. He threw the general across the room. "Mobilize everything," he commanded. "Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we possess. We will go to Earth ourselves. We will burn it so completely that nothing remains. And then we will hunt down anyone who ever helped them. Within days, the largest fleet in galactic history began assembling. 800 warships, carrying millions of soldiers. Enough firepower to destroy 100 planets. All of it aimed at one small blue world. Cassin broadcasts his intentions across every communication channel in the galaxy. He wanted everyone to see what happened to those who defied the Voran Empire. He wanted every species to watch as humanity was erased from existence on Earth. Dr. Li Su intercepted the broadcast and translated it for the War Council. The message was clear. Total annihilation was coming, but instead of fear, she saw something else in the faces around her. Determination, anger, a terrible, quiet resolve. Captain Park Doan studied the captured star charts spread across the table. His mind raced through possibilities, calculating distances and timings and weaknesses. The captured VORN ships had given them more than weapons. They had given them knowledge. And one piece of that knowledge stood out above all others. The Voran homeworld has a defensive grid, he said, pointing at the holographic display. Thousands of weapons platforms orbiting the planet. Impossible to break through directly. General Kim Yuna nodded. So we find another way. There is one. Dohan highlighted a specific section of the orbital pattern. Every 47 hours, their largest moon eclipses part of the planet. During that time, there is a gap in the defensive coverage. Small, but enough for a fast strike force. The room fell silent as everyone processed what he was suggesting. You want to attack their homeworld, said the American general, before their fleet reaches us. Yes, Doan looked around the table. They expect us to wait here, to defend, to die. They do not expect us to come for them. That is their weakness. Eunice studied the charts for a long moment. Then she made her decision. Prepare every ship that can make the journey. Strip the captured vessels of anything we do not need and fill them with soldiers. We launch in 3 days. And what about the defense of Earth? Someone asked. Yuna's expression did not change. We leave automated platforms and a recorded message. Let them come to an empty system. Let them wonder where we went. By the time they figure it out, we will already be at their door. 3 days later, a fleet of ships carrying soldiers from 40 nations rose from Earth and vanished into the darkness between stars. They were not running. They were hunting. Warlord Cassin's armada arrived at Earth expecting fire and death. 800 warships filled the space around the small blue planet. Their weapons charged and ready to burn everything below to ash dot instead. They found silence. The planet turned peacefully beneath them, its cities dark and quiet. No ships rose to meet them. No weapons fired in defense. The only sign of life was a single transmission, broadcasting on repeat from an orbital station. Cassin ordered his communications officer to play the message. A human woman appeared on the screen. Her grey hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes were cold as empty space. She wore a military uniform, and behind her, the stars moved slowly past a window. This is General Kim Yuna of Earth. If you are watching this, your fleet has arrived at our home. Congratulations, you found an empty house. Cassin leaned forward, confused. We are not here, the recording continued. We are coming for you. By the time you see this message, we will already be at your doorstep. You wanted to destroy our world. Let me show you what happens when you threaten our children. The message ended. For a long moment, no one on the Varan bridge moved. Then Cassin understood. His blood turned to ice. "Turn the fleet around," he commanded. "Maximum speed, now." But he was already too late. The human fleet emerged from faster than light. Travel near the Voran homeworld at the exact moment the great moon blocked the defensive grid. Captain Park Doan stood on the bridge of his captured flagship, watching the enemy planet fill his view screen. "All ships, begin drop pod deployment," he ordered. "Strike teams, prepare for planetary assault." Across the fleet, thousands of soldiers loaded into armored pods. They were men and women from every nation on Earth, united by a single purpose. They had trained for weeks on the journey here, learning to work together, learning to fight as one. Lieutenant Choi Hajun checked his weapon one final time. His team was already seated in their pod, faces calm, bodies tense. They had done this before, on the Voran ships above Earth. But this was different. This was the enemy's home. "Remember," Hajun said to his team, "we are not here to destroy. We are here to capture. Our target is the Warlord's palace. We take him alive if possible." The pod launched. Gravity pressed them down as they fell through the alien atmosphere. Outside, fire bloomed against the heat shields. The pod shook and rattled as defensive weapons tried to shoot them down. But there were too many pods, falling too fast, scattering across the sky like rain. They hit the ground hard. The doors blew open, and Hajun led his team into an alien world. The Voran capital city was beautiful in a terrible way. Towers of black stone rose toward purple clouds. Streets paved with metal gleamed under an orange sun. And everywhere, chaos was spreading as humans poured out of their landing pods. The Voran military was caught completely off guard. Their best soldiers were aboard the fleet heading to Earth. Their planetary defenses were designed to stop ships, not infantry. They had never imagined an enemy would be crazy enough to invade their homeworld. Directly, they did not understand humans at all. Hajun's team fought through the streets toward the palace. They moved in perfect coordination, covering each other, advancing step by step through enemy fire. The Voran fought back hard, but they were scattered and confused. The humans were focused and relentless. 6 hours after landing, Hajun stood at the gates of the Warlord's palace. The massive doors had been blown open. Inside, the throne room waited, dark and silent. He found Cassin there, alone on his throne. The Warlord had returned too late, his fleet still hours from home, his planet already falling. He sat in the darkness with his weapon in his hands, watching the human soldier approach. "You came to my world," Cassin said quietly. "You invaded my home. For what? Revenge?" Hajun stopped a few meters away. "You tried to kill my people. Every single one of us. What did you expect? I expected you to die." Cassin rose slowly from his throne. He towered over the human, his forearms spread wide, his scarred face twisted with rage. "You are insects. You are nothing. How dare you come here?" "We dare because we have no choice," Hajun replied. "You taught us that the galaxy is dangerous. You taught us that we must be strong. Now we are teaching you the same lesson." Cassin raised his weapon, but Hajun was faster. 2 shots, and the Warlord fell to his knees. The weapon clattered away across the stone floor. Hajun stepped forward and pressed his gun to Cassin's head. "Do you surrender?" For a long moment, the Warlord said nothing. Then, slowly, he bowed his head. "I surrender." The broadcast went out across every communication channel in the galaxy. Warlord Cassin, the terror of 100 worlds, kneeling before a human soldier. The Voran Empire, the greatest military power in known space, brought to its knees in a single day. The war was over. 3 months later, the Galactic Council sent a formal delegation to Earth. They came with trade agreements, technology exchanges, and invitations to join their alliance. They came trembling with fear, barely able to meet human eyes. General Kim Yuna met them on the steps of the United Nations building. Behind her stood representatives from every nation on Earth, united as they had never been before. "We accept your offers," Yuna said graciously. "We look forward to peaceful cooperation with all species." Then her voice hardened. "But let me be clear. If anyone threatens Earth again, we will not wait for them to attack. We will come for them. We will find them wherever they hide, and we will show them no mercy. This is not a threat. This is a promise." The delegation nodded quickly, desperately agreeing to everything. Later that night, Dr. Lee Su sat with Captain Park Do-won on the observation deck of Earth's first interstellar station. The blue planet turned slowly below them. The stars stretched endlessly above. "They are afraid of us," Su said quietly. "The whole galaxy is afraid." Do-won nodded. "Good fear keeps people honest." She turned to look at him. "Do you think it will last? The peace?" He considered the question for a long moment. "Maybe, maybe not. But if it breaks, we will be ready. We will always be ready." Across the galaxy, in council chambers and royal courts and military academies, a new doctrine spread from world to world, from empire to empire. Whatever wars might come, whatever conflicts might arise, one rule remained absolute: leave Earth out of it. The humans were watching. And God help anyone who forgot.